Cookie Run Dragons! Let's talk about them. Note that this video discusses Oven Break Timeline since that's the game with the most abundant content. Also, there's the multiple timelines thing, so the Dragon's lore will be different in other games. You don't need to watch my last video since that became outdated the moment Season 10 update came out the following day. Alright, let's get into it. Before the little delicate, intelligent dessert beings known as cookies built their civilization across Earthbread many millennia ago, a different race dominated the surface of the world. They were high in the sky, deep in the depths of the ocean. Their shadows eclipsed massive landscapes. They were the dragons. If you think about it, this is sounding suspiciously like the Earth with our human predecessors and dinosaurs. Except here, it wasn't a big old space rock that took out the big lizards, it was war. Wow, an extinction event caused by war, how original. I feel like fiction either resorts to apocalypses, wars, or wars caused by apocalypses to justify mass extinction events. Sure, it's realistic, but why can't it be something different? I suppose I just haven't consumed niche enough medias. Anyway, there were 3 types of dragons that ruled this world. The stone dragons, the flower dragons, and the fruit dragons. This alone is different from Kingdom, which seems to be going for a different direction. However, I think a large part of the dragon's personality and backstory, perhaps, are maintained between games. Where were we? Ah, right. War. You see, one common trait shared among the dragons, at least the ones we know of, is that they are very arrogant, egotistical, territorial, and believes in a power-based hierarchy where they stand at the top and all other weaker life forms either have to serve them or be destroyed. This is true even among their own kind. The dragons constantly fought over one another to attain more power, influence, and territory. Every conflict eventually accumulated into one final massive war between the stone dragons and the fruit dragons. Although we aren't given explicit details of this event, we know how it ended. The once abundant species reduced to mere 5 specimen. The fruit dragons emerged victorious with a whopping 4 left alive. The flower dragons maintained a singular survivor, and the stone dragons were wiped off the face of Earthbread. At least that's how it seemed. These 5 are the only active dragons that remain for a while. And no, they're not related by blood whatsoever, alright? Besides them, the last known remaining stone dragon is the ebony dragon. We'll get to that. The legendary red dragon, Pattaya Dragon, wields pyromancy, the ability to manipulate fire, though their fire isn't just regular fire since it's said that even just one of their scales have the power to keep the Molotri from cooling, and the entirety of the Dragon Valley's heat is thanks to their power. The Dragon's Valley was actually one of the major territories of the Stone Dragons, but after the Stone Dragon's fall, this area would be inhabited by Pattaya Dragon. While they still had their own territory in the Tropical Soda Islands, Pattaya Dragon took a liking to the Dragon's Valley and eventually just settled here. Of all the dragons, Pattaya is always eager to fight anyone and anything. One of these fights resulted in them having a bit of their tail cut off by Night Cookie. Though they generally view cookies as inferior, they still respect those with battle spirits that can match their own. They're very upfront and have made countless deals in the past, usually with no strings attached. Usually. The Golden Dragon, Ananas Dragon, rule over Pineapple Island and is worshipped by the local Mango tribe on the island. They wield geomancy, the ability to manipulate the earth. They can form massive boulders, cause earthquakes, etc. Ananas Dragon is extremely prideful and places much emphasis on pride while also judging others on such basis. They even claim to be the most powerful and knowledgeable dragon. Like, okay. Despite looking down upon cookies like the other dragons, they take their role of guarding Pineapple Island and its inhabitants very seriously. And over time and exposure, they learned that cookies aren't purely worthless and slowly took a liking to them. the blue dragon, aka Lotus Dragon, is the only flower dragon that remains after the Old War. Because of such, Lotus Paradise, the area where they reside, is located rather far away from the tropical soda islands of the fruit dragons. Unlike Pattaya or Ananas, Lotus Dragon is much more quiet and calculative, and they never act without a plan. They mostly stay inside the Lotus Palace, with various Cookie servants working under them. Cookies of Lotus Paradise also worship Lotus as the wish-granting dragon. Every year, the Cookies hold a wish festival where they release flower lanterns in hopes of having their wishes granted by the dragon. Little did they know, the dragon was draining on their life force or life powder using this method, while also showing them false visions of their wishes coming true. You see, at some point after the war, the dragons experienced a decline in power, and that made them unable to maintain their dragon forms for extended periods. Life powder was probably one of the most readily available sources for the dragons to maintain their power and perhaps even strengthening themselves. All the life powder that Lotus Dragon stole is stored inside the White Lotus in Lotus Palace, which is the main reason why they don't really leave that place. While initially also looking down upon Cookies, Lotus Dragon eventually grew to genuinely care for the Cookies that live in the Lotus Paradise and pray for their protection. The Violet Dragon, aka Lychee Dragon, is Lord Mischievous themselves, and they only prefer to do whatever they deem as fun. Their mastery of darkness allows them to shapeshift and brainwash others into loving them and do their biddings. They have a massive underground cavern where they house a lot of monsters. They once took the form of a child cookie and went by the name Mangosteen Cookie to deceive and lure away cookies from the Rambutan tribe. Interestingly, Rambutan Cookie, the village leader, is the only cookie who wasn't affected by Lychee's powers. This likely stemmed from the fact that her love and care for Lychee when they disguised as Mangosteen was genuine and not influenced by the dragon's powers in any way. While Rambutan's defiance initially frustrated them, since they were on Longan Dragon's side, they eventually learned to form bonds with cookies through interacting with Rambutan and Longan's betrayal. Then they finally worked together with the other dragons to take down Longan Dragon. Speaking of which, Longan Dragon, aka the Ivory Dragon, is one of the last remaining fruit dragons, and also considered to be among the most powerful dragons ever lived. Out of all the dragons, their disdain and disrespect towards Cookie run deep in their veins. So much so they look down on other dragons for simply assuming the forms of cookies. They regard themselves as the very embodiment of order, and that their ideal stands superior to every other life form and also every other dragons. They believe in an ideal world where the weak are to be wiped out. Long ago, they were the very one who struck down the last few remaining stone dragons. Allegedly. After that, they eventually went on a millennia-long slumber, submerging themselves and their palace into the deep dark ocean in the tropical soda islands. But not before using their future vision, yes they can do that, to see that their plan for a perfect world is doomed to fail by a staff-wielding cookie. Ever since their reawakening, Longan Dragon had every intention to put their plan to create a perfect world into motion, and eliminate the staff-wielding cookie. Their full list of powers is rather extensive. They can manipulate the ocean currents and lift their palace up into the sky. They reverted the tropical soda islands back to how it was millennia ago, while also bringing back a long-gone tribe from that time period into the present. They can deploy dragon orbs, which enable them to keep watch from anywhere. Additionally, the dragon orbs can petrify living beings and steal their life powder. Like Lychee, Longan possesses mind powers and can manipulate others. They can also trap cookies in essentially their mind realm and absorb their life powder. In Draconis and Mortalis, Longan unleashed their full power and damaged the timeline border, which could kill off entire timeline if not taken care of. Also, their full power form looks like this. And I think that's everything. In the most anticlimactic ending ever, well, it was a little bit climatic, Longan Dragon was defeated by Gingerbrave, who poked them in the skull with a stick, with the combined help of 4 other dragons, of course. Even after they were defeated, they aren't technically dead. A massive explosion occurred that spread hundreds of dragon orbs across the continent. These orbs have been known to cause a plethora of issues wherever they happen to land. And a common theme is that they disrupt the natural environment and whatever life inhabits the area, which can range from affecting natural habitats to indirectly turning living cookies into zombies. Lunken Dragon didn't just go out with a bang, literally. No, they would ensure that someone would carry on their desire to destroy the world. So, they gave birth. That's not entirely what happened. But it also is. Dragon Eye Cookie hatched from a seed within Lunken Dragon's mind realm. Their inception was rather confusing and still has people split on whether it's a soul creation of Lunken Dragon or if it involves Millennial Tree of all cookies. Essentially, Dark Choco entered that realm carrying Millennial Tree's magical seed containing a fragment of his power, which was known to sprout and protect cookies. However, this seed simply cracked. That seed cracking coincided with Dragon Eye's birth. So, if Dragon Eye was Lunken Dragon's plan B, then they would have just done it at any point, right? But then again, we have no explicit link between Millennial Tree's powers and Dragon Eye's birth. This doesn't really have much relevance anyways. As of now, we don't know what Dragon Eye is capable of. They are constantly haunted by a mysterious voice, presumably that of Lunken Dragon, telling them to fetch the dragon orbs to aid their resurrection. Currently, they're just tagging along with Gingerbrave and friends, not really doing anything of harm. Yet. The Ebony Dragon is the only other known dragon that remains after the war, but they are partially sealed for the time being. The Ebony Dragon is the leader of the Stone Dragons and is considered one of the more dangerous ones. During the war, they fled after defeat and arrived in the land of Martial Tarts. Here, not only did they wreak havoc, but also got a bunch of cultist cookies worshipping them, forming the Umbral Pact. The dragon took amusement out of raining terror across the realm and frequently demanded cookie sacrifice. Of course, this would not last, as 4 spirit weapons, wielded by a great hero, were the key to sealing the Ebony Dragon away. Actually, the hero failed to defeat the Ebony Dragon, but their last bit of strength fused with their ordinary weapon and created the spirit weapons, which was then used by their disciples to seal the dragon. The 4 spirit weapons essentially became sentient. Over the centuries, the disciples, being ordinary mortals, naturally passed away, leaving the spirit weapons to defend the land of Martial Tarts alongside various clans to make sure that the Ebony Dragon stays dead. Not much is known about the specific powers of the Ebony Dragon, but we do know that they have some control over black magic, considered to be the roots of all evil. The only clear power we know of is that they can appear and disappear wherever and whenever by manipulating the shadows. So, teleportation? And as of writing this, the Umbral Pact is currently attempting to resurrect the Ebony Dragon to plunge the world into darkness once more. And Obscure Umbra Cookie, the cult leader, has already obtained part of the dragon's powers, and is basically the most dangerous individual alive. While it is a good thing that we've got 4 dragons that are not very interested in destroying Cookie Kind at the moment, the Ebony Dragon stepped into the picture and the main story essentially replaced one evil dragon with another. But the current threat is more so the Umbral Pact, since the Ebony Dragon is still sealed. But I suppose only time could tell. And that is all. I think I covered all the bases. If I missed anything, please leave it in the comments. Thank you so much for watching. Check out my channel for more Cookie Run, and I'll see y'all later. Bye bye!